If there's one factor that explains the disappearance of the middle class in Canada, and indeed in the United States and throughout the OECD, it's this. It's what type of jobs the economy produces, and perhaps more poignantly, what type of jobs the economy no longer produces. In their heyday, and I guess the heyday of the middle class in North America would have been in the 1950s and the 1960s, middle class workers produced the very things that they consumed. You know, cars, televisions, toasters, furniture. Today, very few of those things remain produced in countries like Canada and the United States. They come from some far-flung supply chains in labor markets like China or Mexico, where wages are 1/10 of those in Canada and the United States. I mean, we've had a lot of employment growth in the last 2 decades on both sides of the border. But the fact is that goods sector employment in the United States peaked in 2000. And prior to the election of Donald Trump and his protectionist policies, was on a one-way street, down. In fact, between 2000 and 2016, 5 million goods sector jobs in the US economy disappeared, the vast majority in manufacturing. North of the border, the story isn't any different. I mean, there hasn't been a net job created in the goods sector of the economy in 18 years. Manufacturing employment's down over 600,000, which if you scale for the differences in the size of the Canadian US economy is at least as much, if not more, than what's happened in the United States. On average, over the last 20 years, services have paid less than 20% less than goods sector wages. Now, I know, I was in the service sector. I was the chief economist of CIBC World Markets, and I made a lot of money. But for every Jeff Rubin in the service sector, there are hundreds of burger flippers at minimum wage. And these days, many of the people who work in the service sector don't even qualify for minimum wage. You know why? Because they're not considered workers. If you work for Uber or Lyft, any of the jobs in the gig economy, you're considered an independent contractor. And as such, you're exempt from minimum wage legislation. Every year, more and more of us work in the gig economy. In fact, Statistics Canada estimates that over 10% of the Canadian labor force is employed there. You need medical benefits? Sorry, we don't pay that in the gig economy. You need dental benefits? We don't pay that. Vacation pay? We don't pay that. Pensions? Ask your government. It's not only paying less than minimum wage, it's being stripped of all benefits that typically goods sector workers had essentially guaranteed. Again, that's not to say that there hasn't been massive job creation in economies like Canada and the US over the last 20 years. But in the old days, the days when I grew up, getting a job was a route out of poverty. Today, getting a job in the gig economy is a route into poverty. And once you cross that threshold, chances are you're not crossing back.